If you want something different, you have to do something different.
Chapter 6. Present day. Ron's email still waited for me to make a response. I could ignore it, but that would create this awkward tension between us. Over the last 2 years, Ron and I had managed to settle into a somewhat stable working relationship when we were forced together. At times, I even forgot there had ever been an us. I didn't want to go back to the stiltedness of the past. Neither did I want to open the door to a possible future together. I searched my heart. Despite the backlash of negative and raw feelings that had surged through me upon first reading his email, I realized I really had forgiven Ron. I wished him well with his life, but didn't want to be friends. In fact, didn't want to be anything with him. As for someday needing him, well, one never knew what the future held. But past experience had taught me with God on my side, I did just fine on my own. After a quick prayer for guidance, I finally settled on a response. One there was no possible way to misconstrue. It was 2 not so simple little words. You're forgiven. I hit send. Once it was gone, I deleted Ron's email and made myself a promise. With the help of God, this was the last time I'd look back. The past was indeed over and done, and I'd no longer be a hostage to it. Heaving a deep sigh of relief, I was finally at peace. This was the closure I'd unknowingly needed to move forward with my life. It felt as though a great weight had fallen off my shoulders. No longer would I blame myself for my previously poor judgment in men. God had forgiven me and washed my sin in his precious son's blood. Who was I to continue to refuse to forgive myself? There was still Roberto to contend with. Though I'd been shocked and, yes, afraid, Roberto had spoken some truths this morning, needing to be addressed. How did I know God wasn't orchestrating Roberto's actions, the same way he'd maneuvered Ron into writing that email? I pulled out my cell phone and made a call. Faith frequently required action on the part of the believer, and if I truly wanted love in my life, I had to stop letting fear of being hurt be the driving force in my decision-making. God doesn't give his children a spirit of fear. Nina, is there a problem? Roberto asked, instead of the traditional greeting. I didn't blame him after the way our conversation had ended. Besides, I rarely called Roberto unless it concerned church business. Taking a deep breath and mentally sending up a prayer for courage, I asked, would you like to come over to my place for dinner tonight? We could finish the discussion you started this morning. There was a long silence on his end. If I hadn't heard him breathing, I'd have believed the call had somehow dropped. Then he hesitantly asked, does this mean what I think it does? I'm not sure what it means. I thought about what you said and realized a few things. I'm nervous, but if you're willing to take it one step at a time, then I'm willing to see what happens, I answered, sounding a lot more confident than I felt. Nina, that's all I ask. What time should I be there? Come at 6, I said. I'll be there, Nina. Thank you for the invitation. I'm looking forward to continuing our discussion, Roberto said, his pleasure evident. You're welcome. See you then, I said, smiling. The peace from my spiritual epiphany lasted about another 15 minutes after we disconnected the call. Then any confidence I might have felt vanished as panic set in. What had I done? Brother Roberto Ortega would be to my house sharply at 6, expecting to eat dinner with my children and me. It was 4 now. That gave me a little less than 2 hours to pick up the kids from school, find something to cook, clean the house, and make myself presentable. Me. Cook. Don't get me wrong. I am a fantastic cook when I bother. Normally, our meals lean toward the simplistic. Throw meat under the broiler, veggies on the stove, and dinner's done. The twins didn't like leftovers, and I didn't like wasting food, so no big meals for our household. Besides, my children didn't care if I made hamburger helper or heated up food out of a can, as long as it was something they liked. As for me, I was content with a sandwich or a salad, long as it was quick and easy. Cooking for a man was different, and I didn't even know what Roberto liked to eat. With my kids, I could and did frequently say, "This is not Burger King. You can't have it your way. Eat what I fix or don't eat at all." I couldn't do that with him, though the thought was tempting. However, the manners my mother and grandmother drilled into me demanded I be a good hostess and create a tantalizing array of appetizing delights. To be honest, the feminine side of my nature wanted to wow him with my stellar cooking ability. I know, totally archaic in this day of female equality. All these thoughts bombarded my mind as I raced around town picking up the twins. Brianna and Brendan were in middle school now. Brendan played sports and Bree liked to stay after school and hang out with her friends. Thanks to the Magnet program, our city's way of ensuring racial balance in schools, we lived on one side of town, while the kids attended school on another. You haven't lived until you've tried to make it to the opposite side of town and back in rush hour traffic with a looming deadline. "Can we stop at Popeyes? I have the coupons they sent in the mail," Bree asked, holding one of the weekly flyers in her hand. Unfortunately, due to our busy schedules, we ate out more than we ate in, and I had the hips and low bank account to show for it. "Not tonight. Brother Ortega's coming by the house at 6. "Why?" Under professionally arched eyebrows, those large brown eyes of hers narrowed. The question was full of the kind of suspicion only teenagers were capable of. Sliding Bree a sidelong glance, I answered, "Because I invited him to dinner. You have a problem with that?" My tone indicated she better not have an issue with it. "A problem with what?" Brendan, who was slouched in the back seat, unhooked from his iPod long enough to ask. "Mom invited Brother Ortega to dinner tonight." Despite my warning tone, Bree's displeasure with tonight's dinner guest was evident. "Oh, he's nice." That was the end of it as far as Brendan was concerned. In went the earplugs, head already bopping to the beat. He stared out the window. My daughter was a different story. She turned her skinny little body sideways as much as the seatbelt would allow. I could feel her gaze drilling me. "You two aren't dating, are you?" "And if we are?" I asked a bit challengingly, surprised at her attitude. "I wouldn't like it," she stated flatly. Taking my attention briefly away from traffic, I glanced at her. "I don't remember asking your opinion or your permission." She huffed, flounced back around to face the windshield, and crossed her arms over her small chest. "Fine, but if you guys get married, wait until I'm gone, or I'm going to go live with Dad." I doubted it since Bree's opinion of her father matched mine. However, in typical dramatic fashion, she'd made her point. "It's just dinner, Bree. I didn't ask the man to marry me," I told her on a sigh. While it's true I hadn't proposed to Roberto, I had implied a willingness to open up my life and heart to him and see what happened. This was the source of my nervousness. Tonight was more than just the simple sharing of a meal I made it out to be. "Whatever," she muttered. I really didn't understand my daughter's reaction. She liked Roberto. Roberto was one of the youth workers at our church. All the kids loved him, especially the teenagers. He was fun, easy to talk with, and knew how to relate to them on their level. Their words, not mine. So why the hostility? As for myself, I'd known Roberto for years. First as a fellow churchgoer, by sight and name only, and then later, as we worked and served on some of the same ministries, I came to know him personally. I knew he was divorced, had 3 adult sons, and didn't play around. He was well liked and respected by the young and the old, self-supporting, and a worthy role model for young boys and men. Roberto stood about 5'11", neither too tall nor too short, had muscular arms, a broad chest, and the lower body of a runner. He spoke with a slight Hispanic accent, and as attractive as he is, had both the younger and older women making fools of themselves, maneuvering to be the second Mrs. Ortega. Despite all of this, his name had never been connected romantically to any of the women, single or married, in the church. Definitely not from lack of effort on the women's part. If Roberto was all of these things, why was I worried?